Bloody hell, Mercury looks amazing. I can't wait to play with the new visibility, movement and gunplay changes that BF5 introduced. Oh. So yeah, I think everyone has heard the news. DICE is apparently removing Frontlines and Domination. In Domination's case, I haven't really played the game mode all that much, but I don't see the point of removing a game mode, especially since it is still populated. Also, just calling Squad Conquest a replacement is simply unfair, simply because Squad Conquest operates only on four maps. I think they've added Field recently, but I'm not sure. Actually, yes, they did add Field. Regardless, it is a 5v5 mode, whereas Domination is an 8v8 mode. And of course, Squad Conquest has vehicles, which I am personally okay with, but not everyone will be. So yeah, that's the infantry-only experience out the window already. So what about Frontlines then? Frontlines is not even an unpopular mode judging by just the server browser statistic. The point of this video is just to speculate on what could be the reason for this removal. Well, the first one is obvious. Does BF5 have a very low player count? Honestly, we don't really know because we aren't given the player population because EA seems to be hiding it. I don't know why you are hiding it. I see no effect of just showing what the player counts are. Perhaps they fear it might validate many of the people's criticisms, which, well, wouldn't necessarily be unjustified, but still. And honestly, judging by my own experience, even for Frontlines, the player counts seem fine. But let's assume they're not. Is this DICE's way of just removing a niche mode just for people to play on Conquest? Well, I don't think that will work out very well, especially in Frontlines case and most likely Domination as well, simply because Frontlines is a niche game mode and the primary people who populate it are people who want that 32-player infantry-centric experience. You just don't get that in 64-player Breakthrough or even 64-player Frontlines, where the game mode just devolves into pure chaos, which is okay for some people. This was also the case with BF1, but realistically, there is not much to offer in terms of tactics there. Frontlines is the mediator between very small game modes such as Squad Conquest and larger game modes. Rush was also this, but this was added and quickly removed for some reason. I do not really understand the time limited modes. Are they just copying stuff like Fortnite for the sake of it? Because I do not understand the point of introducing a mode and then removing it. Wouldn't it just be better to let the population choose whether or not they want to play the mode? And that brings me on to another point. Could this be a cost-cutting measure? Honestly, no, because firstly BF5 servers are on demand, and if we go to BF1, we see hundreds of Frontline servers which are all running for no real reason because very few people play the mode nowadays, unfortunately. These are all servers which are running, these are all costing a pretty penny for EA or DICE or whoever manages the server costs. So don't tell me that BF5's Frontlines has anything to do with server browser costs, or rather server costs. So there are two primary reasons so far which I can think of, financial and player population. Well, with financial, it's obvious that it is not the case because they're very content just leaving a crap ton of servers running on BF1 for no real reason. Also, as it pertains to population, I just do not know, and I do not think that is the case. Yes, stuff like Firestorm isn't played all that much, but that is the nature of Battle Royale games. If you do not have super interesting or addictive mechanics, then no one will play them because they get stale after a while. Even if Frontlines is a niche game mode, which according to the server browser is not all that true because at least for the EU on PC, there are a crap ton of servers, well over 10, which are fully populated every single night, and there is no real problem finding a game during off-peak hours as well, so I just do not see why it should be removed. Like I said, I do not think players who favor Frontlines will simply shift to Conquest. I myself, I quite like Conquest in BF5, but I wouldn't play it for hours on end. I certainly would not be shifting to any other game mode because I despise operations. I even disliked it in BF1 despite popular opinion, but I dislike it for the same reason. It is a 64-player clusterfuck at times. So I just do not want to play that. Star Conquest is fine, but without a team balancer, well, most of the games are just stacked crap. So what could be the other reason? Well, they state that they are working Frontlines, which is fair. Frontlines does have its issues. Ignoring Hamada, which is an absolutely atrocious map for Frontlines and this simply was not designed for it. It's like they took the map and said, let's just use all the map for no reason. No thought was involved in the design making process for that map, I'm pretty sure. There are more generalized problems with Frontlines, such like I said, the timer is not appropriate on all maps, sometimes it lasts way too long. Good example is Twisted Steel. Some of the maps are way too open in terms of their out of zones boundary. Twisted Steel does suffer from this despite that being a favorite of mine. And some maps just have too many tanks. I do not understand why Narvik has 2 tanks, or god forbid Hamada has 3 tanks on a 32 player game mode. And that's not 3 for everyone, that's 3 per side, which is ridiculous. But again, let's ignore Hamada because that has its own truckload of problems. Aerodrome is another example. That map does not need a tank, mostly because the German spawn ends up just shooting at the MCONs from the cliff, and there is not much you can do about that. Now, as is the case with everything, I need to be fair. I am not trying to make a RAM video just based on my personal preferences. If I'm the only one who enjoys this mode or just a handful of people, and there is a legitimate reason to removing it, which I cannot find, I wouldn't be this upset. But things just do not add up. Why would you keep a mode like TDM, which is not very populated and isn't very interesting, but you would remove an interesting game mode like Frontline, which is objective based and has vehicles, whereas apparently 18 BF5 promoted a lot that all maps have vehicles, which is okay if the vehicles work on the maps, but still, it is not a good idea. Hell, actually Devastation does not have any vehicles on Frontlines, except for the Sturm Tiger Colin and the other one, the Treasure Crocodile. They said they made this decision based on data. Okay, can we see this data? What is this data? How was it collected? What is it reflecting? Because just looking at the server browser, as I said, the Frontlines game mode is healthy, at least in the EU on PC. On consoles is actually even healthier according to Get Good Guy, or at least judging from how often I see Frontlines gameplay on his channel, and probably also Critical Chris. So I just do not understand this change. What does it accomplish? Why are you annoying the community 2 days before the Mercury map launch? I am super excited for that map, but now my excitement has fallen down a manhole again, because I know I will not be playing that on Frontlines. And I was hoping for a Montegrappa Frontlines with a different setting and none of those god-awful bunkers. That is what I wanted. Now I won't get that. And I'm not the only one. If we scroll down through our Discord, you will see the complaints, or even this Reddit post someone made. There are many people who appreciate Frontlines. You know why? Because Frontlines seems to be populated by the core fan base. People who are a bit less casual and more, let's say, hardcore about the game, where they appreciate the more tactical nature of Frontlines, or rather even without a proper team balancer or the way to balance teams without having a friend on the other team and joining through Origin, or whatever solution works on console, if that exists at all there. You just annoy those people. Many from the community, or at least from my server or the Reddit community, I just don't know what they will do. They probably will not even play the game. I may still play the game personally, but I will not have the consistent enjoyment, which by the way has gone up significantly after the last patches, because you know, you can actually see people, the movement is much better, the animations have been toned down, the gunplay is better, like everything is improved. But then they need to schedule their monthly train wreck, or is it monthly now? I don't know. Well, that's enough lollygagging from me. There's not really much else I have to say. I don't have much to go on. I just do not understand the rationale behind removing an entire core game mode. Nothing was explained about this. Nothing makes sense. And quite frankly, I don't think they even understand their own game, or at least whoever wrote the post. Because if you really think Frontline 64 players is a replacement to Frontline 32 players, then you don't know that it only occurs on 3 maps and that it is 64 players and it basically works nothing like 32-player Frontlines. And the same could be said about Domination. I highly appreciate that they said they may, and actually it is a may, it's not a confirmation, that they will be working to improve Frontlines over time, and we'll have more information about this at the end of June, which is quite a long time just to confirm whether or not you are bothering to bring the mode back. Like, I get it, if the game mode is somehow not working and no one is interested in it. Yes, it doesn't make sense to design more map mode combos for it. Yes, it doesn't make sense to put mercury on it if it's terrible. But it's not terrible, and all you've achieved is alienation of a particular player base who strictly enjoys that game mode. If you are fixing Frontlines, there is literally no requirement to removing the mode from the server browser or playlist, or whatever you want to call it. I have to wonder if they're just removing it from the playlist and not the server browser, because if they are doing that, then that is an almighty PR blunder, because if you just said that it's available through the server browser, honestly, it wouldn't have made much of a difference really, because I already use that to find games anyway. So yeah, that's all I really had to say. I'm very upset with this. Many are. Danny on PC made a video where he actually swore in the intro, which is pretty funny. Reddit is on fire, obviously, because many people are upset on this. Discord, or at least my Discord, won't shut up about it, and understandably so, because our clan literally has the name Frontlines in its name. So yeah, thanks DICE, thank you very much. This has been DanMinigun, and well, I guess you could call this a rant, but I just wanted to make my voice heard, if that makes any sense. And I'm sure many of you are in the same camp. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you, hopefully, in Crete.